Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Uncaged. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me, as always, is my boy, the one, the only DC himself, Daniel Crimmins. How are you, Daniel? We are here. It's episode 6.
Oh, what a show we got tonight, Mike. Back at it. We fresh up our show the other day where we did the worst SummerSlam matches of all time. And oh boy, still thinking of some of those matches. Who the hell thought that was a good idea?
Oh, if you haven't checked it out, folks, go back and listen to our worst SummerSlam matches right here on the channel. Dude, we had just came off a SummerSlam from everywhere, from the 90s, from 2000s, just from everything that encompasses the SummerSlam brand. And already summer's over, but we're going back to a pay-per-view today that was from the summer. Daniel, this was actually the first ever pay-per-view that I ordered, the first ever wrestling pay-per-view of the year that got me into professional wrestling. Vengeance 2002, which was main evented by The Rock, Kurt Angle, and The Undertaker, and an underrated triple threat match for the Undisputed Championship. Now, looking at this pay-per-view, watching it back, and we're going to talk about the feuds here. Vengeance 2002, does it still hold up after 21 years?
No,
No.
it does not.
We were discussing this before we came on air. Daniel was like, I don't know how I watched half of this. I'm like, well, dude, it was summer 2002. This was before SummerSlam, which a lot of people consider to be one of the best SummerSlams ever. Like this was summer '02. This is the second pay-per-view under WWE because we had
Yeah.
just got the F out at this time.
And you know what? To their credit, I gotta say, WWE, they went all in, no pun intended, balls to the wall with the whole "get the f out" thing. I remember T-shirts, the whole nine, and they had shirts.
My mom, it's actually funny. One of the first shirts we ever bought when I first started getting into it was the "Get the F Out," the WWF shirt, folks, and the Chris Jericho "Don't Be an Ass Clown" T-shirt. I mean, you remember the commercial where they shaved off the F?
Yeah,
He's at the
and
barbershop T-shirt.
honestly, I believe I had the "Don't Be an Ass Clown" shirt. I think I had that.
Did you? Nice. Oh,
I remember going to WWE The World, or I think it was still WWF New York at the time,
mhm.
which now is actually a Hard Rock Cafe.
Which is crazy to think about, but still, who doesn't love a good Hard Rock Cafe?
And it funny thing is, Mike, they still have that. It still has the overhang, the canopy.
Yes. Okay, I know what you're talking about. The canopy. Yes.
Like it's like like they didn't change anything.
But that's my thing too. Like you talk about like get the F out and everything with the WWE at the time. Now I'm gonna ask you because this does go into our time frame here that we're talking about here. When they got sued by the World Wildlife Fund, aka the Panda, what were your thoughts? And then all of a sudden now we're World Wrestling Entertainment. We were the World Wrestling Federation after many years, and now we're WWE. What were your initial thoughts?
Why? I remember thinking, and I still thinking now. What does it matter? Like what are we doing here?
The
You know,
World Wildlife Fund apparently was out to get the WWF at the time.
Vince lost to a panda bear.
He did. He did.
I remember having this image. If you remember old school South Park, you remember sexual harassment panda.
I do.
And I just picture sexual harassment panda in a wrestling match with Vince McMahon.
And that's what happened. He it's so interesting to me because we were looking at logos and posters of this show, folks. And I mean, it goes from in 2002, Backlash was still WWF, Judgment Day was still WWF, King of the Ring WWE, and now this WWE. I mean, it's so funny to me just to see just again, we're also coming tail off of Stone. This will also be a future episode, Dan, of Stone Cold Steve Austin walking out of the WWE, taking his ball and going home, which will be an episode in itself. And what were your initial thoughts of the fact that I mean we're going to talk about this with the pay per view, but the influx of no Stone Cold Steve Austin
You
take the
know,
ball.
I've seen other podcasters or folks kind of make this mark, and I'll make it myself.
Yeah,
Once this came around, you think '02, Stone Cold Steve Austin was starting to fizzle out. He wasn't this honestly, if you think about it, after the neck surgery, when they did the I did it for the Raw,
I did it for the people.
for like that storyline injury, Austin was never the same when he came back.
I mean, when he came back with Glass Shattered by Disturbed, and we saw what him and The
Which
Rock.
to me, sorry to cut you off, but to me
Yeah,
that is still my favorite wrestling theme. It just it worked.
and no need to apologize. I agree with you on that because Disturbed kicked ass. But did you like the other one that he had? That little that like other.
Hell no, hell
What?
no. You
What
know,
was?
it was like a weird sort of techno kind of thing.
Yeah,
I love that, like, when he went, um let's see, when he went Authority Stone Cold, like, he went through like 5 different theme songs,
oh my goodness, yes, that's right.
and like it kept changing, and then I just remember, I think the last night he used that weird one was after no, it was after Survivor Series,
2001.
2000.
Yeah,
And I think he went back to Glass Shatters for a little bit.
he did, but mostly everybody remembers "Don't Bring Out Stop, Don't Murray" and that friggin' Disturbed man. Oh, but they had so many different influxes of that
Yep.
song. I mean, as we're in 2002, before we get into the doggone card here, 2002, a lot of people said one of the worst years in WWE. Now, mind you,
I
Dan.
beg to differ.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to ask you here. 2002, it's the year after WCW. The alliance is done.
Hmm.
We have NWO coming in, and obviously at this time period,
With
Scott
a
Hall is
lethal injection of
Jackson, a
poison.
lethal dose of poison. Scott Hall is gone as we're in our time period here. Shawn Michaels is in. Do you agree that around this time period, before we got to the summer, that 2002 was one of the worst years in WWE? Go ahead.
Actually, no, no. I will say, I think 2003 was honestly worse if you think about it. '02 to me, honestly, it was one of my favorite WrestleManias. We had WrestleMania 18,
Yep.
which to me, as far as like musical appearances, you had Saliva, you had Drowning Pool, and you had Drowning Pool doing one of Triple H's most underrated themes of the game.
Here comes the game. Dang. Yes.
And we had Saliva doing the Dudley theme. I think they also did Superstar, which I think was one of the WrestleMania themes that year, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Make me a superstar. Don't matter who you are. And it's like a family in here. We're just a little disabled. Get the tables. Yes. And Stacy Keebler was dancing with Josie Scott. You lucky son of a bitch.
And I still think Stacy Keebler with the Dudleys just made no sense.
Really? The Duchess of Dudleyville?
No, no, I wasn't a fan. But you know what? It was. It wasn't the worst year, but it was weird. It was a weird year. You had Undertaker and Ric Flair, which that weird David Flair segment, which to me is still strange.
We've touched upon this, and we'll get to this when we get to our next episode of this because we're going to go into detail about that. But The Undertaker, hey, if anybody opens this door, you're going to get your ass kicked. And just him beating the bejesus out of David Flair in the shower.
And like short hair Undertaker, like, which to me is so weird. Like, he had stopped dyeing his hair. He was just, like, he was ginger haired Undertaker.
Do you also like that after this pay per view, and we'll talk about the match, but after this pay per view with The Undertaker, he went right back to being a babyface?
You know, I'll say this. Like, there are some wrestlers who heel turns just don't work. I mean, you and I have chatted about this. Stone Cold Steve Austin and WrestleMania 17 just as a heel didn't work. People weren't ready to boo him, you know. And I still say that should have ended with Austin stunning McMahon, giving him the finger, and you know what? It would have worked. But
Right.
people we're like, no, no, we like him. We're not booing him. Listen to the people, and they'll tell you who they want.
Hmm. And it was funny to me because I mean, going up to this pay per view, like Undertaker started showing babyface signs anyway. Like he shook John Cena's hand after he wrestled Kurt Angle. He raised Jeff Hardy's hand after that infamous ladder match. Again, that also brought me in around this time. Climb the ladder, kid. You know, make yourself famous. And then now he's going back to being a heel because there was a match with Kurt Angle on SmackDown where that was a draw. Did he tap or did he pin Kurt Angle? So it was interesting, kind of just to see the Undertaker's trajectory here, and of course, then that would lead to the feud with Test and the Un-Americans before going to SmackDown against Brock. I thought it was very interesting just to
Yeah.
see everybody's trajectory here. And before we even get into it now, as we're about to, doggone dive into it, John Cena at this time made his pay-per-view debut before we even get to that match and
With
everything.
ruthless
Aggression.
aggression.
And we'll talk about that match. But what were your thoughts of this being John Cena's first WWE pay-per-view?
If you had told me back then that 21 years later, that same guy would be sitting at 16 times the world champion, arguably the generational talent. They toss that phrase around, generational talent. Um, John Cena was, the early 2000s into the 2010s, and it's a testament to who he is that now, 20 years later, he is still able to come out and work a crowd like nobody else. And I'll just say this real quick. I remember back to his feud with Roman Reigns from a year or two back, where Roman mocked him for being a part timer and having to come back, and him basically Cena saying, "You know what? What does it say about you that me as a part timer has to come back? You're not getting the job done."
That's not even 2021. That's back to like 2017 where he's just like, you know what? I have to do this because you can't get the job done. That's 2016, 2017 Roman John Cena right there. Still one of the most arguably one of the best promos that John's ever done on him.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's more if you look at it and you look at everything going on with all the wrestlers, some of the part timers, like that they have to come back for business. That's they're not getting it done.
They're not, but also at the same time, man, I know they do have a lot of people coming back, like with months, like we see with Brock and everything. It's interesting though, man, because again, you
Yeah.
have to influx the legends here, and I mean, really briefly, we'll touch on this before we get into this. Edge now, the rated R superstar Adam Copeland, did not want to still be part time, as he is now part of AEW full time. Crazy to think that after 20 plus years, almost 30 years with WWE, now Edge is taking on a new challenge over at AEW.
I'll say this: I've been an Edge mark for years. Full disclosure, when he cashed in Money in the Bank,
Mhm.
I I, I was all for it. He was a guy that you thought, yeah, good Intercontinental Champion,
Tag champ.
good mid card, upper mid card guy, eh, but it worked. It's sometimes you got to be willing to take a bet. And if I remember the start, that was actually Michael Hayes' idea.
That was Michael Hayes' idea. Dope, dope, dope.
Michael,
Michael. And he made it for Edge to win in Albany at New Year's Revolution 2006, cashing in on John Cena. And
which
yeah,
still is one of my absolute favorite cash-ins, and not just the how they did it, but I'm an Edge guy, and it worked. And so I'm really excited to see where Edge goes with this, what they do with him. There's so many guys that he can work with.
well, he said he
What,
wants
what
to
gets,
wrestle. Yeah, he wants to wrestle Samoa Joe and Swerve.
yeah. What gets me though, and we've talked about this, the tribalism is absolutely ridiculous. Like
Yeah, Edge even addressed it. Yep, got it.
he did. Like I've seen people that are like, "Oh, there's no loyalty. There's that." You're why would you be loyal to a billion this love for billion-dollar companies? Like,
Well,
no.
I'll add it to like this. Like you just had Jade Cargill go to WWE, and I wish her well. I think she's going to kill it.
Yes.
Brian Pillman's going to do his thing in NXT. Brian Pillman Jr. And now you got Edge over there. You know they're setting up Edge, Sting, and Darby against Nick Wayne, Christian, and Luchasaurus. So I'm fine with that. And I mean, with Edge going over there, he didn't badmouth WWE.
No.
He just said we grew apart. I wanted to do more. They said no. We just want to have you wrestle every 3 months. And he's like, okay, well, I'll go over here and I'll challenge myself. I'll do a new challenge.
And it's not to say he's never gonna go back, but I think what I'm gonna make this call right now. I think Beth Phoenix is going too.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Beth Phoenix because she is the
Oh,
one
I
that
know.
does. She does the "You think you know him." That's her saying that in that theme song.
And you know what? People are saying, "Well, he used the same theme song. How is that?"
You on the right?
WWE doesn't own that song.
He does.
No, not even Edge. Alter Bridge owns that theme. It's their song. They didn't write it for WWE. It existed before that.
Yeah, and they're boys. Him and the guys on Alter Bridge are boys, so of course he's going to use that theme song.
And it's I think it honestly any other theme would not have worked. There was talk of them using Never Gonna Stop by Rob Zombie. No.
No, but
Honestly, that theme was horrible. He didn't even use it all that long.
we're going to talk about it here in the show. But I only got to say one thing. Yeah, Magarango, number 95. Take it to the home neck
You
boots.
know what? I'm
What?
just gonna say this real quick, Michael.
Yes.
You know my feelings about Robert Zombie.
Yeah, and the Halloween movies.
Yeah.
You don't want to sing it, man? Never gonna stop, man. Never gonna stop.
Well, I wish he'd stop making movies. Monsters was the drizzling, you know
Yes.
what?
Yeah. Now, okay. Well, we did get another song off that album, I will say. Were you a fan of I Feel So Numb, yeah? Were you a fan of that song or yeah?
No.
No.
I will say this. I've seen this meme and it makes sense. Rob Zombie is Hot Topic Macho Man.
Okay, I can see that. I like that you put that image into my head. Okay.
Like, I feel like when he was trying to market his image, he said, they're like, what image are you going to go with? And I imagine he probably was like, all right, picture it. Macho Man Randy Savage, that wrestler. Like, yeah, meets Hot Topic. And they probably thought,
That's
it
it.
works.
We got it.
Like, it's just, oh, no.
No, but what is a not a no is this show. And I'm going to tell you this before we even get to the matches because I completely forgot about this. So at the time, folks, Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler were on Raw. Taz and Michael Cole were on SmackDown. So you had Jerry and JR Raw, Michael Cole, Taz, SmackDown. They did a little thing before the show came on air where they were arguing with JR and Jerry. So Michael Cole and Taz called the first half of the show, and Jerry and JR called the second half of the show. What were your thoughts about the little? Because again, Stephanie was SmackDown, Eric Bischoff was Raw. What would you think of the little announcer tip that we had here?
Yeah.
No,
Don't get me wrong. And I was never really a fan of Taz as a commentator. Just not.
not having it. Okay,
Um, you're not gonna. There's only one team that I will say is on par with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler,
Mhm.
and honestly, it's Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, absolutely.
Like you're not gonna get any better than those guys. And folks, if you've never heard or seen it, you know, invest in Peacock and listen to some old school WWE, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Will you
It
stop?
just you're not going to get any better.
just the funny stuff that they did with like the camels and just them going up to like the animals and just them just will you stop and just Bobby the Brain Heenan with his quips, Gorilla
The
Monsoon being
weasel.
the weasel, Gorilla Monsoon being the straight man. It's just like it's so funny. Like nobody can beat it. I
Yeah.
mean, could you also argue with like Ventura and McMahon? Would you also put them in that category too?
You know, for its time, yeah. You know, I will say this. I think Jesse Ventura was ahead of his time. You know, I think, you know, you look at him and he was way ahead of his time. And if he were coming out now, I think he'd be an even bigger star than he was then.
I mean, when they had him and Vince do that thing in 2009 when he was the guest host, you had flashbacks. As soon as Vince came out to the old music, the Saturday Night Main Event music.
Which I still gotta say, I wonder how much Ventura got paid for that because he does not like Vince.
Oh, but it was still so funny. He gave him the tie, the bow tie, and everything. It was great, man. It was great.
And you know what? If I remember right, Ventura was promoting his show Conspiracy Theory at the time.
All that mind control, Dane. I was the governor of Minnesota.
I ain't got time to bleed. Which I don't know if you've ever seen the TikToks, but Will Sasso does a pretty good Jesse Ventura. Karrion Cross,
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I was there.
He does such a great. By the way, on the side note with Karrion Cross, before we get into this, have you seen the new thing that they're doing with the Ghost with Scarlett Bordeaux and
I
Shouts?
like it.
It's good. Like him and Karrion Cross was on this last one. It was really good, and you could see him like freaking out and getting antsy. Oh,
Did you see the one with Rhea and Dom?
and he's praying because he's like, I don't want to be here. I don't
He's
want to
like,
be.
yeah, no, no.
No, I don't want to be in this jail. I don't want to be in this jail cell.
He goes from being like, yeah, I don't. He's like, yeah, I don't believe in this stuff. And he's like, yeah, no, get me out of here.
Get me out of here. Oh, and I can't wait to the next one because the next one, folks, features Grayson Waller. It's gonna be good.
You mean Baron Corbin 2.0?
I can't call him that, man. I like him, especially with what he said. Did you see what he said about Nigel?
No.
He's like, well, everybody like these Division One athletes who or these stupid Division One athletes. Me and Andre Chase are actually going over to Nigel, picking his brain and
Oh
learning
yeah. I did see that. I don't like the finisher. It's
the stunner, the roll through into the stunner,
like you're going out of the ring and the guy's just standing there. Like,
and you just come back in, roll through stunner, where he could have had more time to counter already
it
or move.
looks cool. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
cool idea,
Mhm.
but I don't know. So, Michael, are you ready to talk some Vengeance 2002?
I am. As I turn my camera on here, hold on. There we go. Y'all can see me now. So I'll go with this. So I gotta put this out here because you made me laugh. The first match of the night was the Dudley Boys against Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit in an elimination tag team tables match. So the reason why we got this matchup, folks, is as we talked about earlier, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Look at this badass over here with the mic. Yeah, man. I
Yeah, I
like.
gotta go with the professional mic.
We both got our mics. I got my snowball. You got the mic. Daniel Crimmins. We are rocking it. I love you, my brother. So we got this of the Dudley Boys and Benoit and Guerrero. Okay, so Stone Cold Steve Austin walks out. Ric Flair just out of nowhere says, "You know what? Babyface time. Here we go." They turned Ric Flair babyface, and Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero have this match at King of the Ring 2002, and Ric Flair wins because Bubba Ray Dudley out of mothballs comes out. He gives the Bubba bomb to Eddie Guerrero, and Ric Flair wins. And then Chris Benoit, who was with Eddie Guerrero, he had just come back from neck surgery. They're feuding with Bubba and Spike, and then we get this match, which I mean, we saw Spike give the Dudley Dog to Eddie Guerrero, military press by Benoit into the table, and then Bubba wins by Bubba Bomb and Benoit through the table. Dudley's get the win. It came out of nowhere. This feud came out of nowhere, and I want to get your thoughts.
Okay, all right, folks. When you think of a tables match, you
Yes.
think no tags. You think of just mayhem, bedlam, whatever you want to call it. That's what you think, right?
Yes.
I remember watching it and rewatching because I watched it years and years and years ago.
Hmm.
I remember seeing a sense like, okay, but then I see them when they two in the ring. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, but And I texted you and I said, Mike, why in the, to quote The Rock, why in the blue hell
Are they
are
tagging?
there tags in a tables match?
I don't
Why?
know. I remember that too. I was confused. I'm like, why are we tagging each other? Like it's like the Hardys and
Yeah.
the Dudleys when they wrestled at Royal Rumble of 2000. It was tornado tag, but I guess this is not a tornado tag, so we have to tag people in a tables match. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't hate this match, but this
No.
came out of nowhere, and they needed to do something audible wise because Stone Cold Steve Austin was gone. So you had to do something with Benoit and Guerrero because the original idea for the King of the Ring that year was Stone Cold and Eddie Guerrero. They advertised it was going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin and Eddie Guerrero. Then it was probably going to be Austin and Benoit. But this, it was
Wait,
fine.
this was '02.
Yeah,
Wasn't this, wasn't '02 the year that Brock?
we're gonna that was SummerSlam, yes. But we're gonna get to
No,
Brock
no,
on that.
wasn't that the one where Austin was supposed to wrestle Brock in round one?
Of the King of the Ring, yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, because according to Stone Cold at the time, folks, he wanted to like we could save this for a pay-per-view. This is not a match that you do
And he's
on Raw.
right.
He is. And I think he was burnt out, but he's like, no, I'm not doing this.
You know what? Honestly, I think this was, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back.
Yep.
And he's even said he was hurting. Like, he was, like, emotionally, physically, he needed a break. Like, you think of guys that carry companies and they just, well, look at Kenny Omega, in AEW, when he was the world champion, like, he was the guy. And then, here he is, saying like, hey, I need a break. And he even said, I've got no problem, working the kid and putting him over, but, a meaningless qualifying match, what they should have done. And wasn't it Rob Van Dam versus Brock that year?
Yes, because Jericho took out RVD
Yeah.
after he beat him, and then Rob lost to Brock. Yep.
What they should have done, King of the Ring, the
Mhm.
finals should have been Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar.
And then you have Brock beat him there.
It would have been so easy to rearrange it, but Vince being, well,
Vince.
Vince, you know, which Vince, how does it feel to be an employee just like the rest of us now?
Oh, there's a shot. No, but that's so
You think?
true.
Hey, here's a thought. Do you think he gets a W-2 now?
Oh, there's the shot. But no, and it's interesting. Like he was supposed to wrestle on the night he walked out. I believe it was supposed to be him and Ric Flair in a cage, and then Ric
No,
Flair
Austin. No, it was Brock.
was that the Brock match. I'm sorry. Thank
That
you.
was
Yeah.
Brock. It was that night, and if I remember right, he initially that weekend they told him it was gonna be him and Brock at Raw.
Yeah.
He got to the got he and Deborah, because they were married at the time.
Yes.
Which, as an unrelated side note, folks, if you watch the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger,
All
there
right.
is a police officer that is played by Deborah.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
It's a bit part, but it's there. Um, so back to it. So the story goes that Austin and Deborah, they land, they get to the hotel. Austin's like, so what's the plan? And they tell him, they say, no, this is what we're doing. And he says, well, are you sure this is the plan? There's no. And he said, well, why are we doing this? On a Raw, this should be on a pay per view. Make money off of this. And they said, no, this is what I think it was Jim Ross
Mhm.
said, well, this is what Vince wants. And I guess Austin's like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm going home.
And yeah, the JR talks about this on Confidential. He's trying to get him off the plane and telling him to come to work. So he wrestles. He was supposed to wrestle Brock, and I think it was going to lead to a cage match with him and Flair on some Raw. You're correct on that because that
Yeah.
was going to be later. So
Like, I
This
think the
match,
feud was supposed to be Ric Flair and Austin.
yes, that was going to lead to the Cajun, but they then they had Ric Flair fight Vince in the no disqualification match where he won full control of the company.
Yeah. Like, that summer was just weird.
And Brock Lesnar actually beats Ric Flair on Raw. He has a pinfall victory over. Look at the summer of Brock. He beats Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and The
Hulk
Rock.
Hogan.
Hulk Hogan and The Rock.
He did it for The Rock.
I did it for the people. So before we get to the next match, Dudley's against Benoit and Guerrero. Meh. Him and Spike doing the thing was okay. Looking at it now.
You know, this was I remember the draft. I think this was the first year they did the draft, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yep.
And they'd split a few tag teams up.
It split Bubba and Devon. Yeah.
And we got Reverend Devon and oh god, that Deacon Batista guy. I wonder whatever happened to him.
I don't know what happened to him at all. I heard he's a guardian of a galaxy.
But we can't see him.
We're gonna get to him too.
No,
So,
I mean like that was the Drax line was, "How can you see me?"
oh, okay. I thought you were making a Cena joke. Yes, you're
No.
correct. You're correct.
But it was just weird. Like, why are you splitting up tag? And it didn't work. Like the Reverend Devon gimmick, which
Masturbation. It's a sin. The Reverend used to take part in that, but I don't take part in that anymore. Ron Simmons. Damn.
the that would not work now. Like the whole, the preacher gimmick.
Yeah, here, take the money. Here's the the Devon Foundation, the Reverend Devon Foundation, the collection. Nope. Nope.
The whole, only slightly racist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? And then we got one of the better pay-per-views that year, Survivor Series,
Where he came
the
back.
Paul Heyman heel turn.
Yep, on Brock and the helping the Big Show win, and Devon coming back, and we reunited the Dudleys.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
they split up. Was APA the other team they split up? Because I know they split the Dudleys.
yes. So they didn't split up the Hardys until later in the year because Matt went to SmackDown and started the V1
He
nah.
won now.
Nah. He can
The
slam
Matt Facts,
the Matt Facts and
which
Mattitude,
I
but yeah,
still love those. Those were genius.
me too. Matt loves English muffins. Matt likes to
Matt
sleep.
hates mustard.
So they split up the fucking APA. They put Bradshaw on Raw. He was mostly in the hardcore title division. And they put Farouk on SmackDown, and
Yep.
he teamed with Devon very briefly.
Damn.
Damn! And did nothing. Nothing on SmackDown. Oh god. But yeah, no. So that was the first match. Then we get to the second match. I like this match better at Survivor Series because it showed Billy Kimmon winning the title. But here it was just a throwaway. Jamie Noble and Billy Kimmon. Jamie Noble retains with the Tiger Bomb. He had just beaten the Hurricane for the title. We just were introduced to him and
Yep.
Nydia, who had won Tough Enough with Maven. What were your thoughts on Jamie Noble and Billy Kimmon for the Cruiserweight title here?
Honestly, the WWE Cruiserweight division was not as good as the WCW version of it. Having said that, I'm a big Jamie Noble fan. Folks, if you never saw his stuff in Ring of Honor,
Mhm.
like early days Ring of Honor, oh, he was fantastic. James Gibson, I think is his real name.
Yeah, I was there for when him and Brian Danielson had that match for the Ring of Honor title where Brian
Oh, it
Danielson.
was fantastic.
It was
Like,
great.
he is one of those guys who doesn't get the credit he deserves. Like, he had that white trash gimmick,
Jamie Noble, boy.
but it worked.
It did.
You
I
know,
mean,
and
this is early
I
Jamie.
don't think Nydia ever, really realized her potential. Like,
I mean, how do I put this? Like, she goes from being this character, like the white trash, the girlfriend, what have you.
yeah,
And then she goes to, then they kind of like split them because she gets blinded by Tajiri. And then they have that god awful blindfold match at No Way Out 2004. They put her on Raw and she's wrestling like Trish and Molly Holly, but she was just kind of like there. she didn't fit. She was just kind of like there, and then they released her right after that. So
Yeah. Last I'd heard, she's since retired. Like, I have no idea what she's up to now.
I have no idea. I think she's just enjoying life after the business, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's like you have a lot of wrestlers that they leave. Stevie Richards is doing his thing now. I think he's a chiropractor
Yeah.
now.
Well, the big thing that happened with him recently is they blocked AEW blocked his video, and he was just straight up just talking about why Phoenix and Moxley was ridiculous in that spot and everything that went to it. He wasn't bad mouthing anybody; he was just critiquing it, and AEW put a copyright strike on it.
Which you can't tell me that wasn't personal, because he'd had their content on there before, but
Yeah, it's just well, I'm going to say this about Tony Khan. You could thank Don Stevens, aka Aubrey Edwards, for this. So he can't take criticism. You want me to be honest? Tony Khan can't take criticism. He really can't.
and you and I talked, and it's the ego thing, and
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, there's a lot of AEW that I really like. I think their most recent pay-per-view was fantastic. And I mentioned it on a very wonderful program that I appear on. We'll address that later. Uh, that stair spot with
RB and Christian, yeah, ugh.
yeah, which it looked like Darby looked like he broke his arm.
It
How
was
he didn't,
it's caution of the wind, brother. It's Darby Allen.
like, dude, you're at the rate Darby's going, he's gonna be the next Jeff Hardy.
Oh, he's my age and he's already banged up and fucked up with how he
Like,
wrestles.
but you know what? It works for some people. Far be it from me to tell a wrestler how to, their style, but look at Mick Foley. And I
There's
love Mick Foley.
yep,
I am a Mick Foley mark.
but he can barely walk, Dan.
Like, you see him, and like he's even said, you see him hobbling around, and he can't do it.
Well, this is also a guy. Remember he talked about, I think it was in the first book. You remember in this first book he's talking about like he's had so many concussions that he couldn't remember what street he lived on. Like he just drove right past his house.
Yeah.
That's how bad it got for Mick Foley. So I mean, we're not at that point with Darby Allen, but Jesus. And I mean, back to the pay per view here, man. Jamie Noble and Billy Kidman did their thing. It was a short period of time, but Billy Kidman, this is a year he's into the WWE, coming from the Alliance. He was the cruiserweight champion there. Then he was, cruiserweight champion in '02. And then we break him off, and now we're kind of just seeing Billy Kidman shine. What were your thoughts on Billy Kidman coming into the WWE around this time?
I liked him more in WCW.
Yeah. I mean, towards the end, later part of WCW when they really featured him, I agree. I hear you. But here,
He had a match with Hogan.
Kidman pin Hogan. Kidman pin Hogan. Yes.
And it wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the word. It really was not.
But you can't
Um,
believe Billy Kidman beating him.
no, not at all.
I mean, with the 2002 run, like he really didn't become like a big thing in WWE until like the Paul London tag team, and then he
And
accidentally, yeah, good.
the music,
Ah,
like that
hey,
cheap imitation DMX,
you can run if you want to, but you can't hide. You didn't like
like
that
it's
song?
obvious that's what they were going for.
Were you not a fan of the song?
No,
You can run if you want to, but you can't hide. Oh God, but yeah, no,
I mean
dude,
that's like the older brother of they don't want none.
they
They don't
don't
want none. They look scared, but they don't really want none.
want none. Well,
The
do you
fuck out of here.
can you agree? Like when he was the cruiserweight champ before losing it to Matt, no way out '03. Like when he turned heel and he was with Paul London, they were the tag champs, and he accidentally hurts Chavo Guerrero, gives him a concussion. Like that was his big run. Like when he turned heel and just like murdered poor Paul London. You know.
Yeah.
But the match was not bad, and I mean, for Jamie Noble's start as the cruiserweight champion, I mean, it was fine. It was just kind of there to me. What did you think?
I it wasn't bad. Like one of the better, honestly, it was one of the better matches on the show. You know,
Yeah, And it pains me to say this for the next one because I like both guys. And I know Jeff Hardy and William Regal for the European title. Jeff wins with an arm wringer into a roll up. Very short and goddamn. Like,
4
listen,
minutes and 16 seconds.
thank you. It was one of the shortest matches on the pay-per-view. I just remember looking at this match, like you could tell it was sloppy because Jeff was very like missing a step or two. William Regal did his best to try to, counteract with Jeff and then taking that roll up for just a very like, kind of like meh finish, like out of nowhere finish.
Yeah.
And this comes from Jeff had just did the match with Taker, which was amazing. He beats William Regal for the European title out of nowhere. William Regal had beaten Spike Dudley for it. They had a feud in the middle of 2002. Now we get to Jeff, and he had cried because Jeff Hardy beat him for the European Championship. He
And he was
lost.
trying to get the title back for the Queen.
I was trying to get the championship back for the Queen. Yes, and
What a possible.
a quarter past four. We got this matchup. Not at a quarter past four, but we got this matchup, and yeah, Jeff Hardy and his green ass hair beating William Regal in 4 minutes and 16 seconds.
Here's just this is gonna be random, but I gotta say it.
Hit me.
All the times he has dyed his hair, how
Yes,
does he have any hair left?
I don't know. I don't know.
And I mean,
I know. I get it.
bullshit.
Bullshit. And I mean, okay, let's put this out here. This is when Jeff was just wearing the white T-shirt and he in the pants, and that was all his gear was: white pants, a white shirt, baggy pants, like Hot Topic pants, and multicolored hair. Great entrance, still one of my favorite entrances. And William Regal still had the power of the punch. He was coming off of, the stuff. He was kind of floundering, but then this matchup, why? Like, how do you have a bad match with William Regal?
There are some styles that just don't work. Are oil and water. They don't mix. And William Regal is more technical, and Jeff has never been technical.
No.
Do I think he could do it? Absolutely. Actually, I should say the Jeff Hardy now. The Brother Nero.
Can do it. Nero, I knew you'd come.
I think
Yes,
Matt could do it. But back then, Jeff was more
high flying.
high flyer, and Jeff has even said, looking back, that he wishes he hadn't done some of the stuff.
I mean, could you kind of see, because he does get released in early 2003, right after this? Could you kind of see, even watching this match, like his in ring work was deteriorating?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, he had that amazing ladder match with The Undertaker.
Like right before this, yes.
Yeah. That should have been the start of something great.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been the start of a huge push.
But no.
I mean, everybody saw the potential in Jeff Hardy that he, was a major star. Maybe he would have had more time, and it's unfortunately with substance abuse, it affects people differently, and maybe the wheels. I mean, and William Regal, he's even had issues, and he has been very open about his issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, William Regal to me is one of those guys that he should have been a world champion.
The way I see it, I mean, it's kind of like Jeff because they didn't know what they could do at Regal because of his issues. But it's one of those things to me. Like during this time period, after we see this matchup here with Jeff, he goes right into the Un-Americans, like right after this. And I mean, it did give us him and Lance Storm as a tag team, so that was a plus that year.
Highly underrated tag team.
Highly underrated, yes. And I mean, they were a tag team before the Chief Morley, and poor William Regal got sick in India, which is why we got Lance Storm and Chief Morley, for God's sake.
Good old Val Venus.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
talk about going off the deep end.
Oh, have you seen his posts on Instagram where he's just out of his fucking mind? Oh God, folks! If you want to see just political,
Wow.
wow,
Like
and conspiracy,
rabbit hole. Like
like he's going down there. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but I'm just saying
No,
he's there when it comes to like thinking about all this stuff. He's wow. That's all you can say
he
is
should
wow.
be in a he should be in a team with Ryback.
Oh, God. I don't think he's that bad. I don't think he's that bad.
You know, honestly,
Yes.
if you ever want a wild experience, follow the big guy on TikTok, and like he goes live a lot.
Oh, I've seen his Ryback show on Instagram. Yeah.
And it's just like
Come on.
what? Like what the
Yeah, he's talking about stuff and WWE did this and they were
and
yeah,
as he calls him, Fragile Phil.
fragile. It's just the problem is I don't understand why people still follow this guy. I don't wish ill will on him, but the
No,
fact he's a dick. Like he hasn't mattered in years. He thinks he still matters, but he hasn't mattered in years.
and he has tarnished his own legacy that to the point where none of the big companies will take him.
Feed me Goldberg. Nobody wants to see that in 2023.
No, maybe 10 years ago, yeah.
2013, sure. 2023, no.
You know, and the sad thing is, he is somebody that really another one could have been a huge star.
Right. But
You know, he was everything that WWE wanted. You know, big muscles. You know, had the face. You know, bald. For some reason, Vince likes bald guys. Yeah, whatever. But I digress. You know, you think of everybody that William Regal has not had a lot of bad matches.
and this was one of them. And I mean, I have to say this just because the afterward, before we get into the fourth match, as we're halfway through the show, Jeff Hardy's backstage with Hulk Hogan, and he's like, "Congratulations, brother, on winning that match." And then Ric Flair comes in, woo, 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 and then he's like, "Hey, brother, maybe I should go out there and do a swanton bomb, brother. Hey, Nate, brother. Hey, Nate, dude, maybe I should do that." And he goes, "I can see it now." Hulk Hogan goes up and does a top rope swanton bomb and falls on his ass. Like one of the weirdest
He
backstage.
would have broken his neck.
Oh my God, yes, but one of the weirdest backstage segments ever. Jeff Hardy, Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair talk about doing a swanton bomb. Congratulations, brother.
You know, weird segment, yes.
Yes.
Weirdest, no.
Oh,
That dubious honor goes to nothing but
yes.
I like you, Gene.
I like what
I
you
like you too, John.
do. I like what you do to babies. I like your poems. Folks, they were going to do at WrestleMania 21. Thank God that they didn't. They were originally going to do The Undertaker and Kane against Heidenreich and Snitsky, and then somebody had the sense to go, no, no, we're not going to do that.
I think it was because people remembered the Heidenreich and Undertaker feud. It was to the point that they ended up having to turn Heidenreich face. And he didn't last long after that. He left
Yeah, there was a
and
lot that went.
then retired. And I know he tried coming back at one point.
I mean, yeah, it turned he after that horrible feud, they had him turn face, and he was Road Warrior Hawk 2.0, and him and Animal were the tag champs, Legion of Doom.
And they did God rest Animal Soul.
He did what he could with that. He did what he
And
could with that.
Heidenreich didn't even. I think Heidenreich quit like.
Right after that, like after that, he was like done. Yeah, I forgot why he got released, but he was done after
No, he
the.
quit.
Oh, he quit. Okay, I don't remember why he
He just
quit, but
did.
yeah,
He
he's
quit. He said, I'm done.
done. Not gonna do this.
Like a guy that they literally hand you the moon.
You're facing the Undertaker. You're going against like these big names, and you fuck up.
Nathan Jones, what?
David Jones says what? We're gonna get to that in the next episode. So,
But Mike, our next match is the
uh,
pay-per-view debut of Jonathan Cena
yes,
and Christopher Jericho.
So, if I remember correctly, why this feud began, so he comes off the match with Kurt Angle. There was a match with him and the Undertaker against Angle and Jericho. I remember John Cena slapping Chris Jericho in Vince McMahon's office, and he does that infamous promo on Heat, where he's like, "Well, let me rewind the tape. I am the Wookiee that's gonna kick his ass." And then we get this match, which was not bad. He wins with a roll up as the start of the roll up king, and him just having dude, that generic music, that
You know, you think of the some of the worst theme music,
John
that's
Cena.
got to be up there. Like to me, it's between him and that generic bullshit that Bryan Danielson had. When he was in WWE, and I don't mean Ride of the Valkyries. I mean like,
It was like
and even he rips on it.
they had a thing about recycled generic music, but I remember John Cena's down. The tights. Can we talk about this as the red like the red and white tights? The tights.
See, I don't know what's worse, the early Cena gear or the early Hardy's gear with the flowers and the plaid and the.
Which Matt Hardy has admitted he sewed all of that. He sewed
And
all
he
of
still has all that.
Yeah, he does.
Occasionally, Rebby will post something like a tour of like Matt's wrestling gear room, and it's like, well, I mean, I like seeing stuff like that because to me it's like going down memory lane. You seem like, well, I remember when they wore the matches that he wore that at, and
That's cool. I mean, but yeah. I think this, for me, it was just, and I'm going to say this, and I can see why John Cena almost got fired. And his last match was supposed to be that Rebellion that year. Do you remember who he wrestled on that UK tour?
I do not.
It was John Cena and Dawn Marie against Billy Kidman and Tori Wilson in a tag team match.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then he raps, and that brought up basic Thugonomics. And Chris Jericho has stated on his podcast that Jericho was originally supposed to go over, but he told Vince, like, hey, I see something in this kid. He has something. He should go over. And Vince listened to Jericho, and John Cena wind up getting the win. He was right, because he was going to get
Yeah,
fired.
he was close, like cutting room floor.
But this gimmick, I mean, he was ruthless aggression. He wore different types. He won the matches with a lot of roll ups, but he really wasn't connecting after the angle
No,
thing. He wasn't.
when you think about it, like he didn't seem comfortable in that gimmick,
No.
but he did bring that gimmick back,
Yes, he did for the Firefly Funhouse.
which I still enjoy that match.
Still one of the best character assassinations of ever.
But it's you could tell he wasn't confident, in that. But then they saw him rapping and they gave it a shot, and it's sometimes it works. It's like you look at guys nowadays, guys like we'll say MJF for example. Can you see somebody like MJF, using a gimmick other than what he does now?
No, because he's perfected it to such great lengths, what he's doing now.
Not everybody can, like can do that. Like you look at like kind of like the darkness characters. Like we know people that can pull that off. We know people that can't do that. And it just doesn't it doesn't work. You look at guys like because this was right around the time, 0203-ish Mordecai.
Hear me, fear me, the day of judgment has arrived.
Which I think that was like another attempt at bringing like recreating the Undertaker.
He was supposed to feud with the Undertaker, and then I got kiboshed because he got into a fight at like in some town.
I almost think it was like an overseas tour.
It might have been. I'm not entirely.
Why does everything happen on the overseas tours? Like plane ride from hell,
Woo, 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 woo. Want to see my dick? Woo, yes.
helicopter.
Hell, you fucking bro, you fucking idiot. How does that happen? He does the helicopter with showing his penis. He is accused of sexual harassment. Then he's getting drunk at the airport and you see him just spewing shit over the loudspeaker. How do you fuck up so badly? And then that fucking idiot, I don't mean to go on a tangent. I'll go on the side here. But goddamn it, man, that fucking idiot Meltzer is like, Tony, you should sign him. You should sign him, Tony.
Oh no, I
No.
was talking about Ric Flair
Oh,
playing
Ric
Red.
Flair. Okay. But no, that also pertains to Riddle because Meltzer's on his dick trying to get him to sign over at AEW, but he's another one.
And I'm gonna say this right now,
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
folks. If you don't think Tony Khan's gonna sign Matt Riddle, you're fucking mistaken. He's going to.
Oh, but the thing is, too, looking at that dude, and much like Flair needed the help that he needed, Matt Riddle needs help. Like with getting drunk and all this stuff. Wrestling should be the farthest thing from his mind. That dude needs
Yeah.
help.
You know, maybe it's just me being conspiracy theorist, but I still think Dana White and the UFC crew had something to do with that.
I think so too, because I know we all know if you've seen the videos, Dana White hates Matt Riddle with a
Well, they
passion.
hate each other. Like they don't like each other. But looking back to it, Mike, and I'll say
Yep.
this about Riddle, he's got potential. You know, to me, I still think he's the. I've called him the great value Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be tough though to wrestle a death match with Nick freaking Gage barefoot.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And Gage has even said he's like, I didn't think he'd do it.
But he did it. It's the toughness. I mean, he comes from the Ultimate Fighter. He transitioned from MMA to wrestling very well. But yeah, he needs help. That dude. That dude needs some help.
You know, lay off the ganja. I mean, this dude has legit said that if it wasn't for marijuana, marijuana keeps him from beating his kids.
He legit said that. That's right. I remember that. Oh god, that right there tells it all. That really says it all right there, Daniel.
And the sad thing is, like, dude, kids look up to you. And like, I get it. You didn't ask to have that, but you got to realize you are in a position of power. You
Exactly.
are in the public eye. People look up to you. Kids, for better or for worse. And I'm not saying that, a pro wrestler or an actor or an actress or singer or athlete should be an idol for a kid. It shouldn't be. But it is. It's the way it is. It's the society we live in. Uh, You shouldn't be doing that.
No. But with society also brings us great role models who does have a little bit of the marijuana in him and the ganja, that being the one and only Rob Van Dam, who is a great, just such a fun personality.
Yeah.
Rob Van Dam and Brock Lesnar at the time. This is coming off the King of the Ring. I remember he power bombed him through a table on Raw, that being Lesnar RVD. This match, just the stuff that he did, the power slams and just Brock overpowering him until he gets DQ'd by using a chair, and he goes for the Van Terminator, and Brock Lesnar just F5s the bejesus out of Rob Van Dam on a chair.
And I remember this. Like, I remember watching Brock back then and seeing him, and like, when you see somebody and you're just like, there is something seriously special about this guy. And again, I mentioned earlier, generational talent. Brock Lesnar
Mhm.
was a generational talent. You know, and I just remember seeing like you see this guy just come out like this big beast, a beast incarnate, if you will. But it worked.
Now, for me, he was just only a few months in here, folks. Like the feud with the Hardys, the feud with Rob Van Dam here before we got to The Rock at SummerSlam, the pay per view after. I mean, the King of the Ring too. Like he beat Test in the semifinals. Very underrated match. Him and Test,
Yes.
the King of the Ring. My thing here too is again, you knew going into it that he was not going to win the Intercontinental title because he was not destined to be the Intercontinental champion.
No.
No, world title for sure because he had just won King of the Ring. But what a feud! What a first feud with Rob Van Dam, like coming off the
Oh, yeah.
Hardys. You know what I also loved about it too is the interaction with Paul Heyman because the ECW tie-in here. I
Yeah.
think it worked perfectly with the story.
Oh, and it did. Like it's some managers and talent just, and again, you and I have talked. I think managers are a lost art.
We don't have a lot of them now, and it's just like we see Paul Heyman doing his thing as the wise man, but we don't see a lot like we had back in the
No.
day. We don't.
Um, we saw it with a little bit with AEW, which I give AEW credit for that. We had Mark Sterling and Jade Cargill,
Yes, smart Mark Sterling. Yes,
which I loved it. I loved what he did with her, and
he's very funny. He's very underrated. I will say that.
and I would love to see more of him. Um, which the sad thing is, and honestly I'm gonna miss hearing this. Tony, cut the shit.
Shit.
I'm gonna miss
Yeah,
that. Like,
I am, but well, what she's doing
it.
now in WWE,
I wish her the best.
me too. But they
If
keep
they bring her
touting.
in right, and which the rumor has is she's gonna be at Fastlane this weekend.
We shall see. I mean, they keep touting it, and I mean, here's my thing: if you put her on Raw and her and Rhea Ripley, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Jade and Mommy.
Jade and Mommy. Ugh. Here's my thing with her. This is a woman who started on the fly. Like she was literally when she went out there and did the thing with Cody on the fly. Like we've never seen this woman before. I even remember saying to you, like, who the hell is this? Like, what are we doing here? Like, who is this person? And then she just blossomed.
And it's funny, like you have people, we talk tribalism. The fans are like, they love your in AEW. Then all of a sudden, it's like,
Yeah. Oh, they started already. I know a lot of them are
oh,
pissed.
and here's the thing about Mike. What were you doing with her? Like you had so many opportunities to push her. It's like they didn't know. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I think by and large, AEW's weakest point is their women's division.
Agreed. I mean, I will go here with Jade here because she was TBS title. That's all she did. Like she could have gone against Britt and go for the AEW Women's Championship, but they kept her with this TBS
Yeah.
title until she
I
lost.
I had mentioned it to you. To have it be where, you trade in the title for a shot at the women's title. It's
Yeah, much like Option C with TNA.
which I don't think they still do that.
No, they don't anymore. But that's my thing, man. You had something with her, and I think with her, you're seeing what Endeavor can do from the
Yeah.
Hollywood connections and becoming a
Oh yeah.
superstar. My thing with Tony Khan, and this goes back to him, because his mindset, I think you can agree, and I'm not hating on Tony Khan. I'm really not. I criticize, I calls it like I sees it, like you and I do. Here's
Mm-hmm.
how I sees it. Tony Khan, how he views her, it's just like, what do you mean you're undefeated? You're having great matches. It's the Meltzer mindset. It's the you're having great matches. You're putting on bangers. But not everybody just wants to put on bangers. They want to see it
Yeah.
from the visual standpoint of making myself a star, Hollywood, commercials, these charities. Like there's a lot more to it, man, than just having great matches.
And I think Jade also realizes that there is life beyond wrestling.
Correct.
You know, for people that if that's all they want to do, if all they want to do is wrestle, okay, good for them. Do you?
Do
It's
you?
your life. Jade, I think she's 30 years old.
Hmm.
She's somebody that I could see her doing Hollywood. You
Agreed.
know, you look at some of the greats in WWE, some of the greats, whether men, women, whatever, they look different. Look at a guy like MJF. He's got a different look. He's got a different gimmick. He's going to be a major star wherever he goes, whether he stays in AEW.
The bidding war of 2024.
Not, I mean, I would just say this as an aside. I'm not convinced he's leaving.
With AEW, I mean, he's having the time of his life right now. Like he's having a lot of fun, especially with the Better Than You Baby. I mean, he is doing a movie. I think he's going to be in the new Von Erich movie, right?
Which honestly, I'm excited for that.
Me too. And I like with such a family, the history of the Von Erichs and the Dallas Sportatorium. Like, come on now.
You know
Ugh.
what? And I'll be honest, I like what Zac Efron's been doing the last couple of years. Him, when he played Ted Bundy,
Hmm?
like it's hard to look at that and be like, this is the dude that was in High School Musical.
It's the dude dancing. We're all in this together. Yes.
All right, it is what it is. But you know what? Speaking of is what it is,
He is what it is.
we got
Yep.
Booker T
Sucker.
versus Big Show.
This feud. Okay.
Now I'm
So
trying to remember, was this post NWO split?
yeah. So Booker T and the Big Show were feuding. The NWO was kaputs.
Because Kevin Nash tore his quad stepping over Bubba Ray Dudley.
And Scott Hall had his issues, yes. And Shawn Michaels was going towards. Well, we'll get to that after this match. Um,
I just I
I,
because
I got
I
nothing.
used to be a Nash fan. I really did. I used to
I
love
know
Nash.
until he talked bad about LA Knight.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm trying to
and
remember this feud. But we'll get to that in a second. Go ahead, man.
I just remember watching the match, and I think it was like the NWO versus Bubba Ray. I think Chris Jericho was in the match too, if I'm not mistaken.
So it was the NWO, Benoit and Guerrero against like Bubba, Spike, Booker T, and I think Goldust. I think it was
Chris
that.
Jericho was in it too. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No, he wasn't in that.
regardless,
Who cares?
doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
And Bubba Ray was down. Nash gets tagged in, goes to step over Bubba to. He was trying to, basically, punch all the, and you see him just step over Bubba, and then just you see him collapse, and you just hear, "Oh God!"
Oh yeah.
Like you just watch it back, and you think, "What? What just happened?"
Do you
Like to
remember like
me,
in the beginning?
closest
Yeah.
thing that we've seen since was
Shame, man.
Shane coming in, just juke jiving, and then just
And a whale you way. I
like,
gotta say,
what
I
just
gotta
happened?
say this. Do you remember what Kevin Nash said at the beginning of that show? He was like, "I'm healthy, I'm medically cleared, and I'm ready to go." And then, well,
Really?
really,
Really?
really. Oh man, but
Anyway,
no, that fucked up the plans. But I remember Booker T and Big Show feuding, and this is again post NWO. The only memorable match, part of the match, I should say, is Booker does a scissors kick through the announce table, and then out of all the moves he wins the match with, the Harlem Hangover. The Harlem Hangover comes back, and he wins with the Harlem Hangover.
or the Houston Hangover.
Or the Houston Hangover, yes. But I will call it the Harlem Hangover, WCW.
Oh
But
yeah,
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 Houston Hangover.
it's a Harlem Hangover.
It's the Harlem Hangover. But this match, it, again, for the life of me, I can't remember why they were feuding, but this match was kind of meh. What were your thoughts?
If I remember right, they were feuding because Big Show beat up Goldust,
Yes.
and Goldust was trying to get on Booker T's good side. I remember, Booker or Goldust dressing up. He had all the ridiculous costumes, like he was Darth Vader. He was
Crocodile. The Crocodile Hunter.
Corky Mite.
Crikey, mate.
Which, just as an aside,
Yes,
Crocodile Hunter's son looks just like him.
he does. He really does. It's scary. It's scary, dude.
Like I just want to be like, he's back.
He's back. Yes. Now, I got to put this out there. You're forgetting one, I think, major point about this. You boys think you're tight? Ain't nobody tighter than Booker T and Goldust. Hell, we're practically married. Then he shoves them off. We are not married. It's just the
Tell
comedic.
me
He
you
didn't
didn't
just
just say
say
that.
that. Oh man,
I
but
think that was right around the time when all that started. Like, was to tell me
he
you
didn't
didn't
just say
just
it.
say that.
Yes, I believe it was. And Booker T had a weird year too. Like he comes from feuding with Edge over the Japanese shampoo commercial at WrestleMania to the joining the NWO, the teaming with Goldust, feuding with the Big Show. Uh,
And honestly, maybe it was Vince's way of just trying to basically shit on everything that was WCW.
oh yeah,
Maybe it was just they really had no idea what to do with the NWO.
no,
Yeah, but you were putting people with the NWO that just shouldn't have been. Like, Shawn Michaels being with the NWO could have worked.
Yeah, but then
You know,
Kevin
you
Nash.
don't have him come out to the NWO theme and just doing the the juke jiving.
Oh, he came out the sexy boy, but with the NWO logo.
Like, dude, no, you don't need to be doing that.
I mean, it worked for the Click history, but Booker T in the history of WCW was ultimate good guy. Like, did his own thing. Like, you would never see Booker T join the NWO. It made no
No,
sense.
you saw his brother join NWO.
God, Stevie Ray in the NWO. Oh God, Stevie Ray in the fucking
I
NWO.
really, they should have done whatever they could to try and get Stevie Ray to come in. You know, Harlem Heat in WWE, I feel could have worked.
I think weren't they having like issues at the time, him and his brother? I think they
I
were
think
kind of
so.
yeah.
But imagine the Dudleys versus Harlem Heat.
I'd rather see that than the Dudleys and the Nasty Boys, which we got in TNA in 2010. And Brian Knobs looked like he was about to have a heart attack.
He,
Brother, we're gonna bring in the Nasty Boys, the Nasty McNasties. Oh my
Brother
god.
Ray, Brother Devon, oh, and don't forget Brother Runt.
Fucking Spike Dudley as Brother Runt. Yes.
Do you remember when he turned heel, when Spike turned heel,
The
and he was
boss
like the leader of
of
the,
the
like they're all afraid of him,
like he's the boss of the Dudley. Yeah, he was the boss as the cruiserweight champion. They turned him into the boss, and he was the leader of the Dudleys.
like
Come on.
anybody who know or who knew ECW history was like,
No.
no, he's not.
No, he's not. He was always getting chucked into the crowd by Bam Bam Bigelow and Mike Awesome and all this shit. Like, stop it.
Like, dude, do not insult your fans like that.
Like, don't insult my intelligence because you want to turn Spike Dudley heel, which didn't fucking work.
Like,
Ugh.
dude, just no, just no.
But something that did not work. We're going to get to the next segment before we get to our final two matches here. So we have a segment where Triple H has to make a decision. Is he going to sign with SmackDown, go with the devil that he knows and Stephanie McMahon, or will he sign with Eric Bischoff on Raw? You could tell he doesn't want to be with Eric Bischoff because of WCW. He's going towards Steph. Talk about I could say screw you and she likes it, which that would fly today. um, but what we saw here, Dan, was just something that really, really was interesting for the fact of the matter is like, where's Triple H going to sign? Because they're making it a big deal. But here
Yeah.
comes Shawn Michaels out of nowhere. No more NWO. He's full on sexy boy Shawn, and he's like, come on, man. We can do this back together. We can make his life a living hell because Shawn was on Raw at the time. And he goes, sorry, Steph. And then Triple H signs with Raw. The next night, we get the DX reunion. And then he pedigrees Shawn Michaels, which I'm going to say probably was one of the most wonkiest pedigrees in the history of pedigrees. And then
Well, to be fair, like I would compare that to when Edge had speared Elias.
oh yes, yes, yes. Okay, fair enough.
Like, because he hadn't been physical in the ring in some time.
Yeah, and Sean wasn't physical in like 4 years, even though we forget about that indie match he had for his promotion in Texas. That Texas
Texas Championship Wrestling or
God or something like
TCW, I
that.
think.
Yeah, the Texas Wrestling Academy. I forgot, but fuck. But yeah, no, he hadn't done a move in 4 years, and then obviously SummerSlam was probably one of the best comeback matches I've ever seen. Being there live, it was electric. But yo, what do you think about this segment? Triple H coming to Raw and DX, the reunion, as or so we thought.
You know, it worked. I dug it. You know, although it led to one of the absolute worst ring gear of any superstar of all time. You know what I'm talking about.
Chopper.
The brown pants from hell.
Oh, Shawn Michaels. I thought you were going Triple H, but yes, Triple H had that chopper in '03. But yeah, the brown. You hated the brown pants at Survivor Series comes back.
Now the story goes is that Triple H or no HBK something was wrong. Like the airline lost his bag, I think. So Sandra, the ring gear lady who would end up going to work for AEW, Which, honestly, if there was ever a time to induct somebody into the WWE Hall of Fame, I would love to see them induct her.
Oh, she did so many great work behind the scenes with the gears. Absolutely.
Um, all they had was Brown.
It looked like he took a dump. A chocolate dookie.
And he ends up, and again, if Triple H is not one of the toughest bastards in wrestling of all time, like early in the match, RVD, and again, it was one of those things. Triple H has even said it wasn't Van Dam's fault; it was a fluke. Van Dam goes for the frog splash. He massively overshot it.
Right here.
Lands the knee right, right there,
Yep.
and like you just think to yourself, like, how? And this was still early in the match, like. And if you remember, after that, Triple H wasn't in the match all that much. Like he would do a couple spots here or there, and get knocked down, roll out, and HBK ends up winning,
Yep.
only to hold it for like a month.
Yep. Before losing it back to Triple H at Armageddon, 3 stages of hell. Now I have to ask you, besides the brown pants, besides that we talk about that all the time, and it's still hilarious to this day. If you remember, he came back at SummerSlam. He was in the jeans. He was in the blue jeans.
Blue jeans and white tank top. And here's what's weird about it, Mike. Here's what's weird.
Okay.
He had the old, HBK chainmail.
The chaps,
Like, why?
like 90s.
It's a street fight.
Yeah.
Come out in the jeans, the cowboy boots, the tank top. You're good.
That's why I looked at Tiffany Stratton on NXT and I'm like, why are you wearing ring gear? And Becky's coming out in like like a shirt, like she's ready to fight in a street fight, and Tiffany's in her ring gear. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, like what are you doing?
Like,
But hey,
okay,
okay. I
okay.
don't mind it though, because she's a beautiful lady, but my goodness gracious.
And she's really improved. She's gonna be somebody.
That's one of the reasons why I also hate Ludwig Kaiser, you son of a bitch. Friggin' getting Tiffany Stratton over here. That damn Ludwig Kaiser.
The impeccable German.
He's
Which
so
I hate what they're doing with Imperium.
well, they're breaking them up kind of sort of now because they're watching over each other. They're showing Gunther to be the superior one, and he just has 2 lackeys. I can't get it under control.
Here's the thing of it. Like Kaiser and Gunter, they've been together for years.
Yes.
They were together on the Indies in England. And Mike, I don't get it. I really don't. They should be one of the most dominant tag. You have them. You have DIY back. Not DI Ryback. DIY has returned.
Oh my God, D.I. Ryback, feed me more D.I. You just put something into the universe. Yeah.
Ari Emanuel, Nick
No,
Khan, whoever. No.
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 Now we're going to get to something, though, because no, we are in our semi-main event. And well, Daniel, one of the most unlikely teams as a tag team champions, Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Edge defend the tag titles against the Un-Americans. Yes, folks, that happened. On July 4th, 2002, Hulk Hogan and Edge, besides being WWF champion, Hulk Hogan won his second ever title in WWE, teaming with Edge, beating Billy and Chuck on the 4th of July America, winning the tag titles, ultimately to go against Lance Storm and Christian, the Un-Americans. This match was fine, but the ending came when Jericho hit him with the title, and Lance Storm pins Edge to win the titles, and Lance Storm and Christian, the Un-Americans, those damn Canadians, are the tag team champions. The match was not bad. We are seeing Edge and Christian on either side going at it again. That history. The Un-Americans are red hot because of everything that's going on in the country at the time.
No.
Hulk, brother, and Hulk Hogan is just there, brother. What were your thoughts
And
on
I
this?
think Hogan quit shortly
That was
thereafter.
so he did the match with Brock, and then he came back at 03 and did the Rock thing, and then he quit after Mr. America because Vince wanted him to
Wait,
feud
you
with.
mean to tell me that Hulk Hogan was Mr. America?
No, not at all. I can't recognize that.
No,
That music. No, you're
you're
kidding.
lying to me, Maggle.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
lie to me.
Don't lie to me. Do you remember? I was at the MSG show where he unmasked, and Vince was like, "I told you were Mr. America. You're fired." And
I just remember like they had somebody doing like dubbed over.
yep. Okay.
I,
So
I, I remember the vignettes, and you think it's gonna be somebody, and like you hear real American, you're just like, oh, okay, what is it? And then you're like, really?
really, it's Hulk Hogan in the mask. It's Hulk Hogan,
Like
Mr.
the corniest, like you would expect an indie guy.
Mhm. No, it's Hulk Hogan, brother. So here's what happened because you brought up a great point. Hulk Hogan as Mr. America, like in 2003, Vince wanted him to feud with Brock Lesnar and do the favors again. And Hogan was like, no, brother, I'm not going to do that. And then he goes to Japan and does a little tour there, which led to the infamous Jeff Jarrett taking TNA to Hulk Hogan and hits him with the El Kabong in Japan. And they were supposed to do Hogan and Jarrett in TNA for the title. No, didn't happen. We were almost got
Because Hogan wanted to be the NWA champion, and they're like, no.
it. No.
Just no.
No. I mean, we got him in 2010, 2009, 2010, but yeah, that time he wanted to be NWA World Champion. No. They were like, no, we're not going to do that, Hulk. You're not beating Jeff. No. So, what were your thoughts on the semi main event of Hulk Hogan and Edge losing the tag titles, the Un Americans? And what were your initial thoughts? Because I'm sure we'll get to it in a future episode. The Un Americans, I mean, September 11th happened. We're going towards the year of that. America's climbing, America's strong as ever. What were your thoughts on the Un Americans winning, the gimmick, and Hogan and Edge?
You know, at that time, and even before, the anti-American trope, it it can work when it's done well.
Mhm.
And it worked. Like these guys, and it wasn't like when a guy like La Resistance, no,
Not a
just
fan of Rene Dupree and Sylvain Grenier and Robert.
great talent, but just no.
Just no.
And I just remember they kept teasing, "Oh, we're gonna burn the flag. We're gonna burn the flag."
I was there at the MSG show the night after SummerSlam when Kane returned with The Fire Still Burns, and Tess was going to burn the flag. And here's what was creative about it: they had the American flag upside down, garnered so much heat. It was, it worked for Lance Storm Christian Test, who they weren't doing anything with at the time. Like
And
none of
I'll be honest.
yeah.
It, I know people have said, "Well, they should have done it. They should have, had them burning of the flag." And I get First Amendment. If that's how you choose to express your First Amendment rights,
Yeah,
whatever. It's your right. I don't agree with it,
me either.
but and I read articles and opinion pieces of why, saying, "Oh, this is why they should have done, written it into the storyline. This is why they shouldn't have." One of the things Eric Bischoff always used to say was controversy creates cash.
Hmm.
To me, there are certain lines you don't cross just for the sake of entertainment. You think of case in point Muhammad Hassan in '06.
Hmm.
And this is what I don't get. That happened early that morning.
Yeah.
They could have easily edited that show. You know, they could have edited, that whole thing out with Hassan. I guarantee you, they're like, yeah, no, do it.
I mean, you have to look. I mean, it was '05, so you have 2005 with Muhammad Hassan, the summer of 2005. The London bombings happened. They could have, but they're like, no. And then that ultimately led to the demise and end of Muhammad Hassan in the WWE.
They tried bringing him back.
But he, no, I don't want to do this.
The sad thing is like he had so much potential. Like
And
he's another guy. Like honestly, I think Muhammad Hassan could have been a future world champion. They could have had him come back as like the anti-hero, being like, you know what, this isn't who I am. This is what they want me to be. This is you could have had him be the anti Vince McMahon babyface, just saying, you told me to be this guy. You told me to be this.
unfortunately, stuff like that doesn't work out. And I mean, you look at the Un-Americans at the time, like shortly after this, when they won the tag titles, they would lose it to Kane and the Hurricane. I mean, at the time, it was Lance Storm, Christian,
Hurricane.
Hurricane. Yes. So at the time, the Un-Americans were Lance Storm, Christian, Test, and William Regal, and then they broke up Lance Storm and Christian because and yeah, they had put Christian with Jericho, which Vitamin C, which still cracks me up to this day. Lance Storm would team with William Regal, and Test, he loves his testicles.
I love my
Ah,
testicles.
testicles.
My brother actually had that shirt.
No, he got it off his Shop Zone. You're kidding.
Got it right off of WWF New York or the World or wherever it was at the time. But yeah,
God,
got the shirt.
Jesus.
And that was '02, right around December. Because that was right around the time where I got the Jericho shirt where, you see him doing on
Yep.
the front, on the back said, "Don't be an ass clown."
Still so funny. Still so funny. So
I wish I had been the type of person that like you get a shirt and
yeah.
like I wore it. Like the one I had, and I wish I still had it. And I think I have. It's probably just buried in a tote somewhere. If you remember the old school ECW shirt that had the logo, and then on the top said Extreme Championship, and on the bottom said Wrestling. It was like in a white and red lettering.
Mhm.
Well, over the border here, they used to have a store, a shop that WWE did. And they had that shirt, but only the lettering was silver.
Oh wow.
And you could only get it there. They had a ride at the store.
Wow.
You always see it all. Every fucking theme park has one where it's like you get strapped in, and it's kind of like a bungee thing. Like you go up, and then down. They called it the pile driver.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like
the pile driver was a
okay.
thing. But yeah, I just thought that was the coolest shirt. So I got it somewhere.
I have to see this now. And
If I can find it, like I know it's buried somewhere.
you got it. I got to see this. You got me. You got me curious. Before we move on to the main event, Daniel, we mentioned the Un-Americans winning the tag titles from Hogan and Edge. Before we get to the main event, do you want to talk about Hulk Hogan and Edge as the tag champs? And what were your thoughts about that for like the short time that they had it before this?
I think they only had it like a week or two.
Yeah, it was just they won it on the 4th of July, and then 2 weeks later they lose it to the Un-Americans. And funny thing about that, Edge did a Inside the Ropes interview, and Jericho even attested to this. If Edge hadn't gotten hurt going into WrestleMania 19, it was they were originally going to do Jericho and Edge, and I mean we got the incredible Jericho Shawn Michaels match. But what do you think would have been better, Jericho and Shawn or Jericho and Edge
Uh,
at that time? Because I know we got Jericho and Edge at WrestleMania 26 and 2010, but around this
but
time.
see, I don't know. You know, I am sure there is an alternate timeline somewhere where that match did take place.
Yeah. I mean, they had a feud in 2002. They had some cage matches and stuff, but I mean, yeah, it would have been interesting. But I think with what we got with Jericho and Shawn, and I mean, years later with Jericho and Edge, it was fine.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is, but what's not tough, man, is our main event here. It's The Rock, Kurt Angle, and The Undertaker, undisputed championship on the line. What I loved about this match is Undertaker does an angle slam, The Rock does an ankle lock, Kurt Angle does a rock bottom, and the finish is Rock hits the rock bottom. On Kurt Angle, 1, 2, 3. Undertaker's too late. Rock wins the undisputed championship. And then we go on to face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, loses it to Brock Lesnar, gets booed out of Nassau Coliseum because he was going to do the rundown, and he said The Rock is going back to Hollywood, and y'all can kiss my ass. The birth of Hollywood Rock. What were your thoughts on this match? Do you agree that it's one of the underrated triple threat matches?
I would say it was. You had a nice complement of styles. You had the big man brawler Undertaker. You had the technical Kurt Angle. You kind of had the all rounder Rock. It was a good mesh. And I liked it. It was enjoyable. That, and if you remember, it was right around that time that they changed the undisputed title to the bigger main plate.
Yes.
And to me, that is still my absolute favorite championship design.
I think I have a replica toy belt of that somewhere. I have to find it, but
It's such a beautiful design.
it is.
We would go from that to belts are not supposed to spin.
Hey, John Cena did it with the U.S. title too, so throw some D's on that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Throw some D's on that bitch, Daniel.
You know, I would have loved to have seen Shane Douglas come in and just throw that fucking spinner on the ground.
You can all kiss my ass.
And I will say this. I'm going to go off on a tangent for a minute, which, me
Yeah.
go up on a tangent?
Oh,
No.
oh, oh. All right, go ahead.
WrestleMania is going to be in Philly next year.
Yeah.
If there's anybody from ECW besides Heyman and Dreamer that should go in next year,
Yeah, Shane Douglas.
Shane Douglas.
Well, I only think he won't go in because didn't he have some bad blood with Vince after the Dean Douglas thing?
Can you blame him?
I I mean, he was the Intercontinental Champion for what, like 10 minutes,
If that.
if that, before losing to. I don't think he helped himself
Because Shawn Michaels got in a fucking bar fight.
with Marines.
Were they Marines, though? I've heard different stories that yes, they were. No, they weren't.
The wrestling or the lore and the wrestling legends. But yeah, no, he got the Dean gimmick, and I mean, yeah, that was his WWF run. I think it started because the Click didn't like him because he had a match with 1-2-3 Kid X Pac, and it sucked, and they Click just kind of buried him after that. So yeah.
The Click buried Talent? No.
But yeah,
No.
no, not at all. That wouldn't happen. But yeah, no, I can see why he was angry. But yeah, no, I think there's
I would be
bad.
too.
I would be too. But yeah, I agree. I mean, Shane, Paul Heyman, RVD's already in. Dreamer, I'd love to see it.
Enough time has passed, and there are people from ECW that
Not Sabu. Not Sabu.
I'm sorry, but Sabu is a great high flyer,
But no.
and I'm gonna get shit for this.
Go ahead.
What has he really done? I mean, maybe put him and Van Damme together.
That's
Maybe
tag team, yeah. But the thing with Sabu is he's just known for the crazy spots. That's it. A lot of people do crazy spots.
Abdullah the Butcher.
He was in the Hall of Fame, yes.
So, and that token, sure, why not?
I don't know, man, but if you can have it in Philly, ECW people, man, repping.
I think Shane Douglas, if you talk moments, I mean, hell, there are people in the Hall of Fame that shouldn't be in there. Drew Carey.
Yeah, JJ, was it James Dudley? Him too. Yeah.
Some of the people that got the Warrior Award that don't really do anything.
Well, the kid was nice. The kid one was nice.
That was cool, but
that
that was not what Warrior was suggesting. Which,
no.
honestly, now that Dana Warrior's been kind of,
Yeah.
are they still? I wonder if they're still gonna even do it.
I don't even know. I mean, Shad Gaspard, yes. Conor the Crusher,
That was
yes.
well deserved.
That was very well deserved. There's a lot of people that who was the one that had breast cancer? Was it Joan Rivers or not Joan Rivers? Who was it? One of the celebrities. I forgot which one it was. That's horrible. What did I say? Joan Rivers? Yeah. What?
I know who you're talking about. Was it Robin Mead? Was that her name?
I'm gonna look this
Robin
up.
Roberts?
You're gonna friggin' laugh at me for saying Joan Rivers. What? What? It was one of the talk show hosts. I'm gonna look this up now. So the Joan Rivers. Can you imagine Joan Rivers?
I can't. I can't, Maggle.
I can't. All right. So here, let me. Here's the Warrior Award recipients. Here we go. So it was Shad Gaspard, Eric Legrand, not Joan Rivers, Joan London. Yes, Joan London, not Joan Rivers, Joan London, who is on Good Morning America. All right, I was in the ballpark. We'll put it like that. We're in the ballpark. Eric Legrand, who I don't know who. Oh, the kid in the wheelchair. That was the kid in the wheelchair. Shad, obviously. Connor Mahalik. Tim White, yes. Yes, well deserved for Tim White.
Oh, yeah.
And Titus O'Neil.
Worldwide!
Worldwide!
I'll say it again. I really think they missed the boat on Titus. He was charismatic. He looked like a star.
He was Batista's friend. They also played football together, so yeah, and they were just boys.
But after a certain incident in Saudi Arabia, it was
Well, not even that. It's like when he went to. How do you get punished for like?
Because I'm sorry, but I am just picturing in my head just seeing him run. And you gotta add in the scream, the oh,
Oh, hold on.
and then Corey Graves laughing like an idiot.
What? Okay.
And that's what made it. That's what made it was Corey Graves laughing. Like you see him running, and then it cuts back into the ring, and you just hear him laughing and just, oh my god!
Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever.
And I think they realized, like, do we have it? Do we have it? Yes, we have it. Rewind it.
Okay, but I think what really did Titus in that he got buried when friggin' like Vince McMahon and like they're hugging everybody and he didn't want to hug Vince McMahon or whatever it was, like that whole Vince McMahon incident after Daniel Bryan was retiring and he was just like I guess he cut in front of him or whatever and Vince kind of like shoved him.
They were kind of like roughhousing or something.
Yeah, and he was like just playing a joke on him and then Vince had that
And like
serious.
he had Vince on the back, like
He was like, "Get off me, pal!" Like what the fuck?
suspended him.
He suspended him for that. Like what the? And everybody was in an uproar for that. Frigging just because of that. It's like, why are you suspending Titus O'Neil? Vince is a weird son of a gun. You think?
Yeah.
Oh,
We could do a whole series on Vince.
that will be in future episodes. But yeah, so to tie a bow on it, Vengeance 2002, Rock wins the title. Him and Brock at SummerSlam. Taker goes off to being a babyface, and Kurt Angle.
I never thought that I would consider The Rock to be a transitional champion.
No, not at all. I mean,
But this was his second to last WWE title reign.
yep. And he loses it a month later to Brock. Undertaker goes on to be in a babyface. That feud with Brock.
If you think about it, his last two title runs were transitional title reigns.
The Rock, yeah. I mean, when he beats Punk and then he loses it right to Cena at
When he
WrestleMania.
beats Fragile Pill, which honestly, I still say CM Punk's coming back to WWE.
I do at Survivor Series too. I think he's coming back.
And you know what? If they're smart, if they play it right, it could work.
We shall
Don't
see.
have to be a full timer. Don't have him do that. Give him a Brock Lesnar style deal, and you're golden.
Agreed wholeheartedly. And well, it's golden here, and then I'll add this last bit here because I love where you're going with it because it really does really solidify what professional wrestling is today and what we've seen for the last 20, 30 plus years. So again, Rock loses it to Brock, as you said, the transitional champion, which still blows my mind. Undertaker becomes a face, feuds with Brock in the later part of 02. Kurt Angle teams with that guy and wins the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So as we put a bow on 2002, does Vengeance 2002 hold up 21 years later after just looking back at the card, watching it? Does it hold up? Yay or nay? He gives it a thumbs down. I will give it the thumbs in the middle. I'm putting it in the middle. That I'll give it that fair assessment. I will.
I can't.
I will. Okay, I know you can, but this was special for me because this was my first ever pay-per-view.
Tags in a
Tables.
goddamn table match.
He's gonna take points off of that. Oh my goodness! But
I'm taking everything off. No, you can just
yeah,
no.
yeah, no,
I can't do it.
can't do it. But
It
yeah,
was dumb. It was
what's
dumb.
stupid. But what's not stupid is this show because as we wrap a bow on episode 7, Daniel, we are 3 episodes before the season finale and then the bonus episode, which I cannot wait for. Episode 7, we are talking about, we mentioned The Undertaker a lot in this episode. The streak, when it was broken. The
Oh my god!
guy's
And don't
face.
forget,
Yep, that and
shocked.
the shocked. The
The
shock
meme of all, like,
the shock look, Paul Heyman's face made it. So we're going to be talking about the end of the streak. We're going to be talking his opponents, both good and bad. And I'm looking at you, Giant Gonzalez and King Kong Bundy. Um,
and we're also giving you the side eye there, Nathan Jones.
with his tag team against, well, it wasn't even a tag match. They even said it was a handicap match, but Nathan Jones comes in at the end. Not even a DQ. He never even was in the match. He was supposed to be in the match, but they didn't DQ it, and it should have been a disqualification, but it wasn't a disqualification
It
because the
was
guy
supposed to be a tag match, but he wasn't ready.
he
He
wasn't.
couldn't do
No,
it.
he's like Kevin Hart. No, he wasn't ready. And we'll talk about the Kane matches, and we're going to talk about Bray Wyatt, which Daniel, I know we're going to talk about that. The Shane McMahon in the Hell in a Cell, the Roman Reigns debacle at WrestleMania in 2017, the John Cena squash, the AJ Styles Boneyard match. We're going to talk about you. We're looking at you, Diesel, before you left for WCW. Look at the adjective. No, it's a verb. We're going to talk about Psycho Sid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Psycho Sid. And we're going to talk about the big boss man in a Hell in a Cell. Oh, good God. We're going to dive into it, folks.
And
So,
Fragile Phil.
Fragile Phil. We're going to dive into all of that in the next episode 7. So, Daniel, before we close this out, please promote because you guys did a doggone good Wrestle Dream episode. Talk about
That
AEW.
we did, me and the boys in the TSK, my good buddy Robert Davis, who you also have a program with.
Yep, deep into the heart of wrestling.
Also,
Check it out.
Moses Marquez. We did a brief recap of Wrestle Dream. You think you know him?
Love it. Love it. Again, I urge everybody go listen to it. It was really, really good. And yeah, speaking of Moses Marquez, I'm gonna plug it. Promo series is coming up. You guys don't know your tag team challengers yet, but it's either gonna be AJ Sparks and Beer or Dazzy and Corey. I know to you it doesn't matter because you and Mo are gonna retain. Doesn't matter. And he doesn't care. He's that confident. Doesn't care. Doesn't care about the knowledge title. Dazzy and Teddy. Nope. Thumbs down in it. Oh, yeah.
Good old Orange Cassidy. You got to do the whole.
Are you even going to try, though? Not even that. Are you going to try? Because, Orange Cassidy's. He's going to try.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm in action,
We'll
too,
see how
folks.
I feel on the day.
Oh, okay. I'm in action as well. And promo exhibition style against Beer.
Who?
I got to bury my boy Beer. It's going to be fun, but yeah, whatever. You guys can check out SM Show 1 or MCL92 on Twitter. You can follow this son of a bitch over here at DCrimmins1 on Instagram, which you should because he's Daniel Crimmins and he's awesome. You can check out StephenMikeShow.com, Capital Championship Wrestling and Lingerie Fighting Championships. And if you're not Mike Larkin 92, we're at 620 subscribers. We're building this up. Follow us. Hit the subscribe button.
That
Like
thing right
over
down
here.
there. There's a
Over
little
here.
bell,
Little Bell. Come on, man. Like, we're going to give you more Uncaged. We're going to give you deep into the heart of wrestling with myself, Robert Davis, and Nicola. We got interviews. We got LFC stuff. We got a whole lot of. Come on
Mike, what
now.
was your most recent show with Deep Into the Heart? What was your most recent time?
Okay, we're going to promote it. We're going to do this. Okay. So if you want to check out Deep into the Heart of Wrestling with Robert and Nicola and I, we talked about the life of Bray Wyatt. We talked about DK and TNA. And we just talked about 4 years of AEW, brother. 4 years of AEW. It's nuts. And our next episode is going to be,
Awesome.
I love it. And we're going to be talking about in our next episode. I'll preview it here. The TNA GFW feud of 2015 and Jeff Jarrett, Global Force Wrestling. It happened. It happened.
Eli, good old Eli Drake. Wonder whatever happened to him.
To that guy. Yeah. Dummy. Yeah. Don't get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check that out. Check out our next episode, which will be The Streak. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of Vengeance 2002. Daniel, before we close this out, as we always say, folks, thank you for listening. We enjoy doing these. Like, we're going to have more stuff coming in season 3. I cannot wait for Daniel to rant about AEW Fight Forever's video game in our bonus episode at the end of this series because
Oh,
he's
I
got a
got
lot to
stuff to
say.
say. I got
He's got a
stuff
lot
to
to
say.
say. He's got a lot to say, as he always does. So, for Daniel Kermans, my name is Mike Larkin. Thank you for listening to another edition of Uncaged, and we'll see you next time. Yeah, you mean to tell me Hulk Hogan was Mr. America? No. I
No, that's bullshit.
never would have thought that. No.
That was fake news. Totally fake. Totally fake.
Huge. Comes crashing down and it hurts inside. Fucking
You gotta take a stand. It don't help to hide.
fuck off. That's how we're gonna end it. Bye, everybody.